From Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parashat Vayigash, why genealogy? If we look in Parashat Vayigash, we have an unusual location of genealogy. We know that it's important in the book of Bereshit to tell the story of the Jewish people and to give the family tree. Matter of fact, it's been pointed out in recent generation that the book of Bereshit is divided in different toldot sections. The toldot of Terach, the toldot of Adam, the toldot of Noach, the toldot of Esav. And then here we don't call it toldot, but a clear genealogy of Yaakov and his entire family. And the question is, why? Why genealogy? Why is it so important to give these family trees throughout the book? So I'd like to give several different approaches, and particularly, why is it located here? I mean, before Yaakov dies, but at the end of the book, maybe we say, oh, and this was the story, and here was the genealogy. Well, let's sort of finish off on that note. Or when they were born, we could have listed them. Why list them now as they're going to Egypt? It seems like a strange time to list them. There seems to be some significance to this particular moment because it's repeated. The book of Shemot begins with sort of a reiteration of this genealogy in Vayigash. When it says these are the names of the people who went down to Egypt, it doesn't give all the names, the 70 names, just gives the 12 tribes. But again, it seems to be something so prominent that the book of Shemot opens on this note. Simplest interpretation is, you know why it lists so many names and all the names at this particular point? Well, we want to show that although at this time there are only 70 people, but one day there are going to be millions of people, as we say in the Haggadah, that Moshe says at the beginning of Devarim that used to be 70 people, and then now you're like the stars of the earth. Of course, you could make that point from a different point of view. Yaakov was one person, and they became millions, or Yaakov had 12 children, and they became millions. But somehow, we go from 70 to the millions, to the 600,000 Jews went out of Egypt, the men that went out of Egypt. So that's one answer, is that the contrast, 70 here, millions later. Second possibility is that actually 70 is a lot. If Ishmael had 12 children, Abraham's brother Nahor had 12 descendants, and Yaakov had 12 descendants, but now we're saying not just 12, he had 70 descendants. It's an accomplishment. It's something very significant. The Netziv notices something that many commentaries, Hasidic commentaries, ask the question, they say, Eila Shemot B'nai Yisrael, these are the children of Israel. And who are the children? Yaakov uvanav, Yaakov and his children. Which one? Is it Israel or is it Yaakov? How come we list the children of Israel, but Yaakov? What's going on? Is his name Yaakov or is his name Ishmael? Is his name Israel? So what's going on? So the Netziv says, no, here we're not talking about Israel, the person. This is Bnei Yisrael. This, for perhaps the first time, this is the Bnei Yisrael. This is where they become a nation. And interesting, when do they become a nation? So I don't know, they became a nation when they left their nation. When they went into exile, and they were different, and they were away from home, there they were distinct. We say in the Haggadah that the Jews were unique. When we came down to Egypt, we didn't fit in. In Canaan, we're sort of semi-natives, We're really Hebrews, we're from the other side of the Jordan, but as long as we're in Canaan, there's some element of being the native there. But when we go to Egypt, we're foreigners, we're strangers. And that experience of being strangers made us gel into Bnei Yisrael. This is the moment where the Jews become Bnei Yisrael. And when you become Bnei Yisrael, that's a very significant moment. This is a big deal here. And that's what we're discussing, is the Jewish people going down, becoming a nation. One might argue that this was like an invasion. I mean, we as a people went from one place, we went to another, and one day we're going to come up from there. It's a national movement of a whole nation and a population. Then there's some more mystical answers to it as well. There's Or HaMeir, Zev Wolf of Zhytomyr. He says that these names are not just names. You see, the Ramban says every word in the Torah is really a hidden name of God, but also the names of the tribes, it's also the names of God. We're talking about the relationship of God and the Jewish people. It's all about Anochi Eredim Chamitzvayim Vanochi Alcha Gamalo, the words of God to Yaakov in this week's parsha that God's going to come down with us. The names of the Jews, it's the name of God. We know that very often we include God's name in our names, Yisrael, Gavriel, Malkiel. But also, even when it's not so, our names are an allusion to God. Or in a similar notion, I noticed in some Hasidic works, they talk about the Jews didn't just come down with their names, we went down with all of our sparks of holiness. We brought the sparks down, and we're going to find some new sparks in Egypt, and we're going to bring the sparks back up. This is an important, not just historical event, creation of a nation, but this is an important spiritual moment where the Jews find all their sparks, bring them to Egypt, and bring the sparks back to the land of Israel. Why is the family tree important? Well, what are these stories about? What are we reading about these days? We're reading about Yosef, who was such a big success. Wow, I mean, he was like running the whole world. But in the end, it's sort of not a big deal because he wasn't part of the mishpacha. In the end, you're part of your mishpacha, the strength, what you should wake up in the morning and say, wow, it's great to be alive today. It's because we're part of that mishpacha, that chamula, that family. We're part of the 70 nations. We're part of these souls. We're linked up with God, linked up with the names of God, the sparks of holiness. And that's why genealogy is important, to know who you are, where you fit in the scheme of things. It makes you see yourself as much bigger than just the one individual that you are, part of a family. You know, there are modern scholars who say, well, yeah, maybe the Jews went down to Egypt, but some of them stayed out of Egypt. We didn't all go there. Maybe another message here is that we all went down. It's an accounting. When you take a group on a group trip, you count it up. Stephen, Jason, everybody here. Everybody's here. This is an accounting. And when we come back, we're going to bring the bones of all the tribes. We're going to come with all the children. Not one is missing. Ish lo nedar. It's also the point. We're going to go down. We're going to hope not to lose any sparks. That's so important in this generation, to try to keep the family tree together, try to keep the sparks going. We're here in exile. We're here in America. Let's hope we can bring all the sparks back to the land of Israel one day, as the Jews did in those days as well. Thanks for joining us here at the Anshei Sphard-Beth Emeth congregation. Discussion of Parshat Vayigash. Join us each week for the discussion of the Parsha and the holidays, how-to videos, and more. And thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit asb.org.